Sonia, you look like the director in your chair.
Okay.
Where am I looking again?
Are we good?
Yeah.
Hello
Hello.
Hello and welcome
to the latest Talking Transport podcast from
London TravelWatch.
I'm Trisha Hayes,
Alex Smith.
Sasha Langerbald.
Laura Snola,
Trevor Rosenberg.
And I'm very pleased today that we're going to be speaking to
Shurin Hayward.
Claire Waters.
Alex Campbell
Mags Croucher.
John McGeehee.
And Michael. Do you think that cash is going to continue to be an important payment mechanism on London's transport system for the foreseeable future?
A lot of people that are digitally excluded and older people are more likely to depend on cash. And I know that's something that TravelWatch has been particularly focused on, and making sure those people are still able to make the journeys that they need to make.
For those people who have no option but to use cash, it's fundamentally important that they still have that ability. For example, as indeed London TravelWatch colleagues managed to secure before, when cash was retained as an option at tube stations, they can turn up at tube station and pay by cash. The sting in the tail at the moment is if they buy a paper ticket using cash, they're going to be paying over the odds compared with if they used a different form of payment method.
More and more people are being encouraged to buy their tickets on their phone and have their tickets on their phone. Now, I've even succumbed to it, and I'm buying my daily tickets and their e-tickets. But unfortunately, there are times when batteries die on phones, and because it's the passenger's responsibility to ensure they are able to show a valid ticket upon request, if the phone dies, they can't.
We've got this kind of rush to making everything as digital as possible, and I think there's a real risk that some people are left behind by that.
Personal security is something that London TravelWatch have done a lot of work on. I think there's an old podcast on it as well, if anyone's interested.
Specifically on personal security, I mean, fundamentally, our responsibility as TfL is to run a safe and reliable public transport network, and to ensure that people make active travel choices, so that we can all see a future for the capital, which is safe and green and inclusive and sustainable. So we want people to feel confident to walk and cycle. We want people to feel confident to travel by public transport, and it's our responsibility to make sure that transport network is reliable, and it's safe, and it feels welcoming.
Personal security seems to be of increasing importance to people, whether that's driven by real changes in, threats to personal security, or whether it's reflecting wider social trends. Difficult to say at the moment, and I wouldn't want to, make a call on that till we've done some more research.
Type of transport that is so important to so many people is buses. I would both do buses, but I imagine there's some quite different issues in different areas.
In London, there's a sort of understanding that buses are vital for London to keep moving. Nobody argues with that. Outside, that's becoming less and less of an argument now.
I think it is, for maybe all ages, the transport mode that older Londoners take the most. So if you look at the Freedom Pass, for example, 220 million Freedom Pass journeys out of a total of about 270 altogether. 220 million, so that's what, 75% or something, are made on buses. And I think that's partly a story of what those journeys are for. So obviously more likely to be more local journeys, particularly kind of everyday things like shopping, but also accessing services, or, getting to a health centre 2 or 3 miles away, that sort of thing.
There's one sure way of seeing how important a bus is to take it away, and then everybody goes nuts.
Having to change buses can make the journey a lot harder, whether it's someone that's maybe struggling with their mobility, or they're having to wait a lot longer in bad weather conditions and that sort of thing.
And from your experience, obviously, inside London and outside London, obviously, interesting to get your perspective on what kind of the main differences you think you can see.
In rural areas, the bigger areas of concern will be not so much around punctuality, perhaps around availability and whether a service is actually running. Because as you can imagine, if there's fewer services running in a rural area, that can really make the difference between getting somewhere or literally not getting somewhere. In urban areas, it's more things about timing and punctuality, which tends to come to the fore.
Most people in London don't live right next to a station or within 5 minutes walk, so they're usually catching a bus to get to a station. So I think it's something that other larger places could certainly understand, is that yes, they might have a service that takes you to the station, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen it where the bus comes in and the train has gone like 30 seconds, a minute before.
Our caseworking team in so many ways is kind of the heart of what we do as an organisation. I mean, both because of the way in which it helps people get themselves out of sticky situations. And like you, I've seen lots and lots of great stories about results that have been achieved by our caseworking team.
This lady came to us that her daughter had, on her Oyster card that she had topped up, had disappearing money. I say it in inverted commas because she couldn't understand it. So I think she'd been to TfL and they couldn't help. So she came to us, and again, it's through the relationships that we build with TfL and the other train companies that I knew the people to go and ask and speak to, and they were able to say, no, the Oyster card had been used for these journeys.
For those, dissatisfied people who came to us and thought, all hope was gone, actually we were able to, working with our sister watchdog, Transport Focus, on a national level, to kind of play back some of those experiences, talk about the kind of injustice when someone has just made an honest mistake and yet is slapped with a penalty fare. We've converted that, and Transport Focus have converted that into some proposals, and the gist of it has been picked up by the regulators, saying, look, there's got to be some way in which we can just recognise that mistakes get made, and people have got to be given a bit of space for that.
Let's move on to talk a bit more about kind of accessibility and how we can ensure that transport is more accessible.
And accessibility, even in London, it still has a long way to go. So, it's kind of depressing in that sense, but then the infrastructure's older in London than in many other places. So there's this real balancing act to do.
There's some people fall over and just get back up, but there are others that it might result in a long hospital stay, for example, and that will have a knock-on effect with lots of other things related to their physical health. And also, if you have one bad incident of falling over, it's more likely to happen again, and there are all these kind of knock-on effects. So it's really important that we kind of reduce as much as possible the risk of those happening.
EVs are deploying at pace, chargers are popping up everywhere. It's really difficult to find one that's truly accessible, that can be used by someone with particular types of disability. They can be heavy, they can be poorly lit. It can be very difficult to get a wheelchair up to the place to actually disconnect them and plug it into your car. And we put out a pretty strong report saying this wasn't acceptable.
Those people who kind of think about this for at least 5 minutes realise that actually if we make the system better for those people who may be mobility impaired, whether it's on a permanent basis or temporary, it actually makes the system better for all of us. So I don't think that priority is going to go away anytime soon. If anything, it's going to be stronger. Some of it's expensive to deliver. Some of our old, we got still a Victorian transport system in many parts of the capital, and kind of converting that to be truly accessible, really expensive. But it feels like it's going to be, a big priority.
A bit of a shout out to Joanna Davidson, who's one of your predecessors. And I think she put her finger on something very important when she said, it may seem like a small thing, but the campaign to make toilets free to use in each of the mainline stations has been a massive benefit to huge numbers of people. So that's kind of a really brilliant example of an issue which has not been making national headlines, but makes travel just possible for everybody in a way that it's really necessary to do.
Knowing that there's a toilet somewhere means you're more likely to go to that place, be more active, spend money in the local shops, access services, etc.
Making sure that access to loos is free. And it's a reminder, it's a bit like politics. All politics is local. All transport at the end of the day is local. And the small stuff matters as well as the big stuff.
There's something like 140, 150 stations on the Transport for London network that have toilets.
Oh, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have thought it was that many.
Yeah, and that's why I think that information is really important to get to people, because you're right, most people say, I thought it would be much smaller than that. I don't see these toilets. I didn't know they were there. And actually, if people are more aware, because there is better communication, that can support people with planning their journeys, for instance.
In the next 25 years, what do you think the biggest changes that are going to shape our work over the next 25 are going to be?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that's happening to us, and indeed the whole transport ecosystem in Britain, is the government's rail reform agenda. There's a bill going through Parliament at the moment, which is going to fundamentally change things. It's going to see the creation of an entity called GBR, so Great British Railways, which is essentially going to bring together most, not all, but most of the rail operators in Britain under one GBR nationalised entity, and that's going to be obviously a major change.
It was interesting actually when Andy Lord, the Transport Commissioner, came to our board meeting in the spring of this year, and we asked him the same sort of question, and he was interested in the potential for AI to reduce the number of times that there are trespassers on the public transport network, which would have safety benefits, clearly, but it will also have benefits in terms of reliability of the services.
There's lots of interesting discussions about how we can better use AI and bots to be able to kind of sift reporting and can pick up patterns and be able to actually understand correlations, and therefore how we can actually speed up some of the investigation process so that we continue to have that capacity and continue to be really victim-centred.
If you could change one thing to improve London's public transport system, what would it be?
I would try to have drivers given the same routes most of the time, so they get to know some of their passengers and people start to feel more bonded with their, their regular routes, because I think it makes a big difference, including for the drivers, if they see familiar faces and friendly faces and have a bit of a wave and a chat and whatever. It makes life easier for everyone.
Communication, because it's about supporting people plan journeys and have the information that they need, but also to prevent people from missing out from things that would actually benefit them.
I would have thought in this day and age, we can kind of progress from what we've got at the moment. There's like a family of concessions that TfL already offers, over 20 types of concessions, all sorts of cards, and actually use technology whereby each person's profile can determine the particular package of support they get. And I'd be really interested in looking at what we can do that way, rather than just giving everyone a free ride.
Thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of Talking Transport.
And you can hear more about London TravelWatch
On our website, sign up to our newsletter and keep an eye out for our next podcast.
But for now, thank you very much for watching and listening. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Done? Are we done?
Just do this all day.
Yeah, brilliant.
All right.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
That goodbye was like, do you remember, is it Toy Story 2? Or 3? Yeah, at the end of the movie, Barbie's at the end. She's like, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
There you go.
Yeah, blooper reel.